Welcome in. It's 1410 Wing Live. Justin Kinner with you here. We appreciate you taking time and tuning in and hanging out with us. Yesterday, of course, an article from USA Today broke stating that, hey, look, Major League Baseball, already has another huge proposed plan that we could potentially see baseball as early as June or, as early as June, possibly July. And joining us now to go dive further into that, as well as other possibilities for what baseball will look like here in 2020. We have ESPN's Tim Kurkjian. Tim, welcome in, sir. How are you?
I'm well under extraordinary circumstances. At least we're healthy, and I hope everyone is there.
Absolutely. We appreciate you taking time and hanging out with us a bit. Obviously, look, yesterday's, news that broke about Major League Baseball, close to having a plan for potentially playing in June and July. I've been following a lot of your audio pieces and interviews that you've done. Look, there's been so many ideas tossed around from the first initial one that you've heard throughout when this started weeks ago to now. How realistic is this potential plan of starting late June?
Well, I've been told this week by two people who would know, and they're guessing, they're speculating, but they both thought we would be playing baseball in July. Now, there are so many roadblocks in the way that you have to be very careful who you believe these days, because the narrative from last week, if not yesterday, changes this week, if not today. This is just how it goes. So I'm not quite sure what to believe anymore. However, the two guys I spoke to this week, I spoke to a lot more than two, but two of them were pretty confident that we're going to get things going in June and we'll be playing in July. And I'll believe that when I see it, and I sure hope they're right.
If there are games, look, we're talking about the most recent proposal that, games will be played in the home ballparks for teams, which I thought that was quite the jump and leap from where we were with last week's proposal about, Arizona games and, all teams being located in one state at this point. You as a reporter, if these games are going on, are you going to feel comfortable going to these ballparks and covering games, or are you going to be doing this remotely, in your opinion?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think there's much doubt. And there's so much doubt about everything that we're going to start without fans, no matter when or where we start. And my guess is we're going to play in semi-neutral sites for the entire season, not in home ballparks. But if they ask me to go call a game from the booth with Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez, I'm going to the game and I'm going to call it. I don't know if they're going to let me in. I don't know if they're going to let anyone in, the bubble, the biosphere, whatever you want to call it. And these are just one of the many roadblocks, the testing that has to go on in order to keep everyone in a quarantine situation. So it's highly possible I'll be calling a major league game that I'm not even at. I've never even tried to do that. It should be interesting.
All right, we got ESPN's Tim Kurkjian with us here on 1410 Wing Live, our new Facebook Live show right here for 1410 ESPN Radio. With that being said, part of the way to be able to get these games in this year, 100 games is the proposal to start in June. The realignment of these divisions for 1 year. Look, baseball is the most traditionalist sport out there, so that it's just killing the baseball traditionalists. Just how different a season would look if we have one. What are your thoughts? Have you had a chance to look at how the divisions would be broken up, and is there anything that stands out to you as something that's interesting as far as how those are divvied up?
Well, I'm a traditionalist. I'm 63 years old. I'm a purist in every way, but I also recognize these are extraordinary circumstances, and we're going to do some extraordinary things this year if we're going to play baseball. So, if we need to play 7-inning doubleheaders, we need to put a runner on second base to start the 11th inning in order to save players. I'm going to look at this season like it's going to be the strangest season no matter what. And almost whatever you want to do is going to have to work. And I think everyone else had better come around to thinking something like that, because if the purists like myself say, look, hey, I don't want any part of that, then we're not going to have any baseball this year. So you're going to have to ask yourself, is a truncated, strange form of baseball better than no baseball at all? And my answer to that would be yes, it's better than no baseball at all. But you're going to have to be careful if you're going to call this a championship season if, say, we only play 80 games and we kind of play with a whole bunch of different rules.
Kurkjian's Baseball Fix. It's a feature you're doing on ESPN right now. And today, it's interesting with all the talk of playing in empty ballparks. There was a game played in an empty ballpark back in 2015. I'll let you kind of dive further into that. But for those out there who are thinking or curious about what watching a game in an empty ballpark would be like. Which, by the way, welcome to the world of Reds fans in September every year. By the way, but go ahead and dive into the Kurkjian's baseball fix from 2015.
Yeah, that was the strangest game I've ever covered. I mean, only the media was allowed in. There were no fans. It was so quiet. It was eerie. I mean, Chris Davis hit a home run in the first inning for the Orioles and ran around the bases in total silence. It was so spooky. Buck Showalter told me, recounting again the other day, he said, you could hear the ball land in the stands. He said, when you take early BP and there's no one in the ballpark, he said, I love that sound when you can hear the ball land. You could hear it at a major league game. Caleb Joseph, the catcher for the Orioles, told me after the game, he said he's back there catching a big league game, and he can hear the announcements being made in the press box. Like, that was, just making this up, Chris Davis's first inning homer this year. And Caleb Joseph is back behind the plate going, wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. He could hear all of that. And Buck Showalter told me he could hear everything that Gary Thorne and Jim Palmer, the play-by-play and color guy, were saying, because there was no one in the stadium. And Buck kind of half-jokingly said, we didn't even need the bullpen phone. I just had to get to the top step of the dugout and say, you better get Britton up. That's how quiet it was that day. And it was fascinating because it was unique. But if that's going to be every day, I'm not sure it's going to be fascinating for very long.
Tim, one of the top headlines in baseball, honestly, the top headline in baseball coming into the 2020 season before the pandemic really took over national headlines, the Houston Astros and the response to the Houston Astros for the sign-stealing scandal, and obviously bled over into the Boston Red Sox as well. We saw a lot of teams already taking retaliation against the Red Sox or against the Astros in spring training. We figured that it would carry over into the regular season. Obviously, if there's a team out there that's happy that they are not playing right now, it might be the Houston Astros right now with all the attention that the negative attention they were getting coming in. Looking back at how Rob Manfred handled the punishments for Alex Cora and the Red Sox and Hinch and company with the Astros, how do you grade that? Do you think that Rob Manfred made the right decision in how he went about handing down those punishments?
Well, I think he handled the Astros about as well as you can. Those were pretty harsh penalties, but very deserved penalties, and cost the manager and general manager their jobs. And there people wanted more. They wanted players suspended, which was probably not very practical. They wanted a title taken away, which was also not practical, at least in my mind. So I think he did the best he could. And then I think he looked at the Red Sox situation, and this is what we were told all along, is that the Red Sox, what they did wasn't even close to what the Astros did. So Alex Cora essentially got suspended for what he did with the Astros in 2017, not what he did with the Red Sox. So the Red Sox penalty was much less severe, and I think that was deservedly so. But there are people around the game that thought they should have been punished more, but there'll be a little asterisk over that season for them. People will look at it and say, something fishy was going on there, but not quite as much, of course, as the 2017 champion Astros.
Major League Baseball obviously announced, when this first started, when the season was delayed, of how they were going to handle service time. Service time, a big topic of discussion among Cincinnati Reds fans here in the Cincinnati-Dayton area, mainly because they went all in. They traded for Trevor Bauer at the deadline last year. You got 1 year with Trevor Bauer. Now they're not even in a position to potentially trade him come the deadline. So they might not see another pitch from Trevor Bauer if he chooses not to return to Cincinnati. What are some other teams being impacted by that similar scenario right there, where a star player heading into their final year of their contract, they may not get to trade that player or see that player pitch or hit for that individual team?
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are the best example with Mookie Betts, because he's going to get all his service time even if no games are played. And it's possible they will have traded, some pretty good young players to acquire a potential MVP for the National League. He plays no games for the Dodgers and then leaves via free agency. That certainly is possible. Now, my guess is, A, we're going to play this year, and B, the Dodgers, with all their money and resources, are going to find a way to re-sign Mookie Betts to a long and enormous contract. But I think they're the one team you have to look at and say, boy, this is going to be a really bad deal for them if they make a trade for Mookie Betts and he doesn't play one game for them.
All right, ESPN's Tim Kurkjian, good enough to take some time and spend with us today. We're fortunate here in the Dayton area, Tim, to work with the Hall of Famer Hal McCoy. Hal McCoy and you go back a long time. We talked before the show started, just for you to share your favorite Hal McCoy story.
Well, I've covered baseball for over 40 years, and I think Hal's over 50 years. So we've shared a few along the way, but it's a famous story, and you guys all know it. But, Hal had tremendous vision issues 10 years ago, 15 years ago or so. And he was going to retire. He was going to quit. He couldn't cover the team without his eyes. And Aaron Boone, my dear friend from ESPN, now the manager of the Yankees, basically said, Hal, you are not retiring. You're going to find a way to figure this out. And with a bunch of help and rides to and from the ballpark and guys helping him out, Hal McCoy was allowed and able to continue to cover baseball. And it was all because a player, of all things, a player stepped in and said, no, you're not quitting. We're going to find a way. And I think that tells you an awful lot about Aaron Boone. And I think it tells you an awful lot about Hal McCoy.
Yeah, absolutely. A few years ago, when Aaron Boone, before he took the job with the Yankees, you guys were doing Baseball Tonight. Or it was the Cubs and the Cardinals. I think it was 4 years ago on Sunday Night Baseball. They opened up the season, and me and some friends were in Chicago. And we were screaming and hollering at you guys, trying to get your attention, and you guys wouldn't look back. I finally yelled Hal McCoy's name, and Aaron Boone turned around and looked at me, and then he called us back, and I got to meet all you guys back there. But yeah, Hal McCoy's name carries a lot of weight no matter what part of the state you're in. So there you go.
Well, he should. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best writers and one of the best baseball guys I've ever met.
Absolutely. All right, Tim, we'll send you out with this. Is there going to be baseball in 2020?
Well, note my hesitation. I'm going to say yes, but it's not going to be the baseball we're used to seeing. But I think it's going to be better than nothing.
All right. ESPN's Tim Kurkjian. Tim, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Justin. See you.
All right, and there he is, Tim Kurkjian. You've been tuning in to 1410 Wing Live, our new Facebook Live social media show that we do throughout the week. We got some big names coming up for you as well. We're going to have Chris Holtman, head basketball coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He'll join us next Monday, and we'll continue to update our guest list at wingam.com, so continue to check that out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been 1410 Wing Live.